Hi, this is Robert Polenic, the owner of Brutal Iron Gym. I thought it'd be a fun video today if I brought you along in my arm workout. So the first exercise I'm doing is for biceps, and I'm supersetting that with a tricep exercise. That means I do a set of the bicep and then immediately move into the tricep, and then I would take a break, exchange weights, get a drink. But I do exercise 1 right into exercise 2, and then I would take my break. So you'll see as I'm talking, I'm gonna put some clips in the video as well. But I'm starting with a bicep curl on the cable station where the cable's set around my mid-thigh. And I like this angle because it helps to get more of a connection into the upper bicep. So it helps to kind of create this separation that you would want between the shoulder and the bicep, this crevice, this line here. This exercise is great for that because at this angle, you can actually not only do like a curl where your arm stays in place, but we actually want to elevate the handle a little bit. So I'm gonna lift my elbow and curl at the same time. So my upper arm actually moves in the angle throughout the exercise. That initial lift gets a nice contraction in the upper part of the bicep. And then whenever you're fully contracted due to the angle of the cable, this is perpendicular to the cable, my forearm is. So this is when the movement would feel heaviest, which is when I can feel that nice deep contraction here. If the movement is heaviest in the stretch, you kind of feel it more so down at the elbow connection of the bicep. So this is a great way to get that upper portion, and it helps to create what is like a pumped up feeling in the bicep. And then usually the second exercise, I would do something that pulls that pump open, and that creates more even damage rather than just being down here. You get a nice full pull and stress all the way into the tissue. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is a bicep curl. I'll show you this. So I typically do my right arm first. I'm left-handed, so I like doing my weak arm first, and that kind of sets the tone. I'm freshest with the first limb if I'm doing a unilateral movement. So I use my opposing hand, I'll use my pointer finger and middle finger to kind of feel that upper bicep connection. You don't have to do this, I just like it. It gives me that mind-muscle connection, especially at the beginning of a workout, to kind of get everything pumped, get everything moving, get it feeling good. So I'm gonna do typically sets of 20 on this, but I might just do 10, so that way you don't have to watch me do 20. But the idea is I'm warming up with 20. So again, just a nice little lift and curl. So my upper arm does move a little bit during this exercise, and it's just enough to feel that upper bicep connection engaging. So that way it's not just the lower bicep feeling the stress of this movement. I'll also play with my hand and either lead the curl with my pointer finger or I'll lead the curl with my pinky. If I lead the curl with my pinky, I tend to get just the inside bicep. If I lead with my pointer finger, I tend to get more of that outside bicep connection. So I do get a little bit of that pointer finger lead. Okay, golly, that was enough reps, whatever that was. Ow. But I get enough of that outer bicep connection by leading with my pointer finger. So, no clue how many reps that was, but we'll just call that a good set. Now, on this arm, you can see, probably a little better, but I want to show you both, is I'm going to get that little bit of a lift, and it's more subtle than what I would have shown in the demonstration. But again, that little bit of a lift to activate and engage the upper part of the bicep, and I'm leading the curl with my pointer finger, and again, that's helping to fire the outside head of the bicep. So ceps is a reference to a Latin term for muscles. Bi means 2, so biceps means 2 muscles, or triceps is 3 muscles. But that is what I'm looking for, is this outer head of the bicep. One more. Ooh, okay. Fantastic. So that gets a really good pump. For me on this machine, it goes by 10-pound increments. So I'll do my first set of 20 reps at 20, then 30 pounds, then 40 pounds, then 50 pounds. Some days I'll just do 3 sets at 50. It's a real hard, deep burn for 20. Other days I'll spice it up by going heavier and dropping to sets of maybe 14, 12, or even down to 10. So I might do this 60, 70, 80. But the idea is I'm starting light, getting that mind-muscle connection, getting the muscle pumped up, and then I'm going to work up heavier and heavier and heavier until I feel that I can still maintain good technique, but everything's starting to break down, fall apart a little bit. So I would stop before it went to total crap, but I want to challenge that and make sure the muscle is getting a full exhaustion. So this is what I would start with. I would do 3-ish warm-up sets and then 3 hard sets. And you can do hard sets of 20, 16, 14, 12, 10. Somewhere in the 10 to 20 range is usually a pretty good top effort weight. So 3 hard sets, somewhere between 10 to 20 reps. Second exercise I'm doing is the tricep exercise, and I'm using a new handle today. I'm going to do back supported tricep press downs. I typically like to do these with a rope so I can pull apart as I contract, and I feel like that gets a much deeper contraction across all 3 muscles of the triceps. However, with this being a new bar, I wanted to try it. So I'm doing the wide grip for 10, and then I'm bringing my hands narrow into this area here for 10 reps. So 10 and 10, 20 reps. The inside position feels stronger because it's a little bit of a shorter range of motion. So it's going to be a little stronger. You're not getting as deep of a contraction because you're just flexing kind of out in front of you. So that's why that one's second. But if you have an access to this or a straight handle, that would be great. Typical camber bar that looks like a W would be fine. But if you have access to ropes, a rope grip, especially one that allows you to get nice and wide, like shoulder width or even a little wider, I would definitely suggest trying that. So I'm doing this today for fun and to experiment a little bit, but my traditional favorite is the rope grip. Okay, so for this, what I want to do is I'm going to get into position. I'm going to put my feet out in front of me a little bit, bend my knees a little bit. So if the machine were to move, I would fall over. So I do want that much weight into it. When I accept the weight, I want to push back into the machine. I'm going to drive my elbows down. Now I will start with my upper arm a little bit in front of my body. So that way when I press out, the cable doesn't hit me in the head. So if I bring my arms down here, the cable's going to be smacking me in the face the whole time. So I want my elbows pointing down towards the ground, but far enough that I don't hit myself in the face with the cable. And then I just keep my upper arm nice and stable. And I want to get as big of a range of motion as I can. So I don't want to just stop here in this like lockout. I want to get a full stretch, full squeeze, and make sure I'm really challenging the muscle. You can see the pace I'm keeping is rather calm. I try not to go super fast. I want to feel the muscle squeeze, and I want to feel it stretch under tension. So we'll say that that's 10 reps. I'll bring it up, switch the grip, pull it back into place, and again, I want to push the handle down towards the floor, trying to keep my upper arm nice and stable, and flexing and squeezing and staying controlled the whole time. The reason why I like the back support is because I'm not swaying to get my upper body involved, and I can't drive my shoulders over the handle, which cheats the technique. So we'll say that was 10. What you wouldn't want is I would grab this, bring it down. I'm now like over top of it doing like this stuff. That looks like crap, and you're not going to grow much out of that because the range of motion is real short. So I like the back support because it forces more of that strict position, and you're getting a nice stretch and squeeze on the muscles. When it comes to growing the biceps and triceps, one of the biggest things to remember is on an arm day or an arm exercise, meaning it's specifically for biceps or for triceps, that's what you want to feel. Don't go so heavy that you're just moving weight. You want to actually feel the muscle working. If you worry, am I going heavy enough to get the muscles to grow? We get heavy training for the triceps from overhead presses and chest presses. We get heavy training for the biceps from rows and pull-ups and pull-downs. You're already getting the heavy work in other upper body workouts. So when you're doing isolation exercises, just bicep and tricep exercises, use a little bit lighter weight, work on that mind-muscle connection, and feel the muscle moving throughout the whole movement. Try to develop that mind-muscle connection, no momentum, really make that muscle do the work, and you'll get the growth. Okay, I'm gonna hit up my working sets. So for this one, again, we have about 2 or 3 warm-up sets, and then 3 hard sets of 10 to 20 reps. So I'll get those in, and then we'll meet up for the second bicep and tricep exercise. For the second exercise for biceps, I'm using that new handle and doing some cable curls. I move the cable all the way to the bottom to get more of a traditional feel to the movement, like I'm using against gravity. However, I don't have an easy curl bar. The one that I did own, I didn't like the camber of it, so I sold it, and in the process of getting a new one. But this new handle mimics that angle where it's a little bit easier on the wrist. And I like it because personally for my mobility, this is maybe just a me thing, is if my hands are flat, which if I do like a barbell curl, I get a lot of the inside here, but I don't get as much like outside bicep involvement. So I like a little bit of that angle because I feel like that actually helps for me to get more of a blend between the inside and outside head. Now that could be like a wrist mobility thing, sure. But my wrists are fine for benching, squatting, all the other odds and ends. If I wanted to work on that, I'm sure I could. But I like the easy curl bar feel, that little bit of an angle. Even when I do dumbbells, I'll curl with a slight angle as well. I don't even know if I've ever done, I don't even remember if I've ever was like perfectly flat. I actually never really liked barbell curls even from the start of training back when I was 16 years old. I did them because that's what Arnold did. But the second I had cables, the second I had an easy curl bar, those were my preference. And like I said, even with dumbbells, I tend to have like to have that little bit of a slight angle. So for this, again, 2 or 3 sets to get the mind-muscle connection, to find the right weight, and then we're gonna do 3 hard sets. Now, usually for this one, I'll do the opposite end of 10 to 20 reps from what I did in my first movement. So if my first movement was 20s, I'll do this one down by 10. If the first movement was, maybe I started at 20s, worked my way down to 10, then this one I might do mid-range or high reps. I'd like to just have a complement to whatever I did in the first movement. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So with these, what I'm looking to do is to get a stretch at the bottom, and I want to come up and squeeze and flex. So the same as with everything else you see in today's workout is everything is slow and controlled, trying to eliminate momentum. I'm not getting to like a certain rep count just for the sake of getting to the reps. The rep count I end up getting to is just whatever I get to by the time the muscle dies. So my focus is a good stretch and squeeze, and whenever it dies, but I want that to be happening near the rep range I want. So if I focus on really good quality and I only get 12 reps, but I want a 20, then I'll just make the weight lighter next set, vice versa on the other way. Ooh, that's hard. So let's say there I got 20 reps, but I really wanted lower, then I would just make the weight heavier. So you do have to adjust weight depending on the reps you get, but I don't want to just force a certain rep count. So if I go nice and slow and controlled and I would only be able to get 12, but the program calls for 16, I don't want to just hurry up and move, with poor technique the last couple reps just to get to 16. I would let it die at 12, then adjust the weight. So the rep ranges aren't, do what you have to do to get in this range. It's, hey, with perfect technique, aim to fail within this range. So that's going to be the movement here, is just nice, slow, controlled, good stretch, good squeeze at the top. And again, I'm usually aiming for 3 hard sets between 10 to 20 reps and a complement to whatever the rep range was in the first bicep exercise. Okay, now we'll move on to triceps. Okay, for triceps, what I'm doing is a sideways overhead tricep extension. So I'll typically start with my right arm because it's my weak arm, but to show you this, I want to start facing you so I can talk about what I'm doing. So I'm looking to do is grab this rope, and I'm going to use my hand to support against the machine, my non-working hand against the machine. So I'll have this kind of T position where the supporting arm and the upper arm of the working arm are nice and level, everything's kind of nice and flat with the floor, parallel with the floor. And then I'm letting my working hand, which is holding the rope right now, letting it fully stretch back without my elbow raising. So I want to keep my elbow where it is, but let the handle come all the way back as far as my muscle will let it. And then from there, I'm just trying to extend out to the side. And again, I don't want my upper arm to move. I want everything to stay nice and controlled. Looking for a big range of motion, so big stretch, and then a real strong, hard contraction. I aim to flex the muscle like I'm trying to get the thing to cramp. That's how hard I'm flexing. So I'm not just getting it out to the contraction and just kind of like pausing here. I'm flexing really hard to make sure that that muscle is fully engaged and I'm getting the best activation of as many fibers as I can, so that way I can get the maximum stimulus. And with this movement, what I'm looking to do is to keep my elbow pointing towards the floor as much as I can. So I don't want to rotate to where, if you're looking from the side, I don't want my hand traveling in front of me. I want my hand traveling straight out as much as I can, rather than out in front of me like this. So it's going to feel a little awkward to kind of like rotate your elbow down, but that helps you get a better equal involvement across the 3 tricep muscles. And that's another reason why I really like this movement. As I said with the first movement, if you use a rope grip and a back support, you get all 3 parts of the tricep really well. So I like this because it does the same thing. As much as I can find movements that don't overemphasize one area of the tricep but not another area, the more movements I can find that blend all 3 triceps involved, then I'm just going to get better growth because all the movements I'm doing are getting all the stimulus rather than having to do one tricep exercise for like the horseshoe, then one for the long head, then one for the inner head. I just want to crush all 3 in every movement I do. So I'm going to show you the other side. I'm going to keep yapping because I have the microphone on. You should be able to still hear me. So again, support off the machine. My upper arm stays nice and stable, and I want to think of coming out and flexing and squeezing, trying to think of that handle traveling straight over my shoulder joint, so it feels like I'm externally rotating my shoulder to make sure that I can get the equal contraction across all 3 tricep muscles. And then again, what I'm looking for on this one is 10 to 20 reps, feeling that I'm in control the whole time, and whenever it dies, it dies. And the same kind of rep scheme as with the bicep movement, I want to complement what I did for the first exercise. So for me today, I was doing 20 reps in the first exercise. So for this one, I'll look for lower end of the range, maybe 10 to 14 reps. So this is still one of my warm-up weights. I didn't get to my working sets yet. So I'll modify that because that felt light enough that I would have been able to get through 14 for sure. So I'll modify my weights. I'm looking for 3 hard sets. And again, I'm doing these back to back to back to back. So it's the bicep right into the tricep, take your break, bicep, tricep, take your break. And again, the use of that kind of superset is you get more total volume in your workout, because if I'm doing a bicep exercise, I don't need to stand around and do nothing for 2 or 3 minutes before I do my next set. I might as well train something else. So if I train a non-competing exercise, so if I'm doing biceps and paired with triceps, they're not taken away from each other. I can even do, biceps and calves, or biceps and lateral raises if I want to bring up my shoulders. Just pick non-competing movements and do them back to back. That's going to get a lot more volume in your workout. And then one of the benefits of doing biceps and triceps back to back is you get a freaking massive pump. You feel good because your whole arm is swollen. So I like that a lot. And there is science to back up that if you can pump the limb by doing the front and back side of it, that you're gonna get more metabolic stress when it comes to challenging the cell walls with water and whatnot. There is a science for it, but the kind of easier to understand thing is you just feel swollen, the arms feel pumped up, you feel good, everything tends to work really well. Also because the bicep movements are warming up the shoulders and joints, just like the triceps are, so it makes everything feel really good. And it's kind of like a euphoric feeling, is joints are feeling good, muscles are pumped. It's a really good day to just enjoy the gym and feel like you're making great progress. So I'll catch my working sets on these, and then we'll come back together for the third and final exercise for biceps and triceps. For the last superset, I'm actually going to be doing my triceps first. I like it because out of these two movements, it's the most exhausting one. So I like putting it first when I'm more fresh after the rest. What I'm doing is a slight incline for skull crushers. The bench behind me is angled at 10 degrees. So this is a Rep Fitness Blackwing bench, and it has a different increments. Typical kind of standard increments of bench incline are by 15-degree angles. So you'd go 0, 15, 30, 45, and so on. So if you have a 15-degree angle, that's fine. You can even do these at 30 degrees. You can certainly do them flat, even if you don't have an adjustable bench. But what I'm doing is I'm doing a skull crusher, and you'll see a couple things. First thing is I'm lowering the dumbbells down by my ears, and my upper arm is going to stay nice and stable. That way I'm ensuring I'm getting an isolation into the triceps. My lats aren't helping, which can sometimes be the case if you let your upper arm kind of drift too far back. Your lats will contract to kind of initiate that extension. And then the other thing you'll see is I'm holding the dumbbell handle not dead center, because that'll kill your grip. You can actually slide your hand towards the vertical top of the dumbbell. So you'll see in the video I add that the dumbbell, the head of the dumbbell on the top side of the dumbbell is actually resting against the base of my hand on my pinky side, because that is the highest point. What that does is that reduces grip stress and allows me to better isolate my triceps. Okay, I'm going to get into a set of these. We're looking for, again, 10 to 20 reps. On these particular, though, I do like to go heavy once I feel nice and warm. So if I'm doing these at the end of a workout, I'll typically do really hard sets of 10. If I'm doing these for some reason at the beginning of a workout, which I wouldn't do, I would definitely do sets of 20 and make it very light and kind of warm up my elbows. I would typically only ever do these things towards the middle and end, because they're very aggressive on the tricep connection down at the elbow. So you want to be thoroughly warmed up and thoroughly pre-exhausted, so that way you're not using max effort, totally fresh weights. So even powerlifters that I'll work with, where our goal is tricep strength, not necessarily growth, I still don't do these totally fresh. They're going to have done some kind of max effort bench or dynamic bench or speed bench, some kind of bench work before they would do these. Okay, so enough of me yapping. Let's get into it. Okay. And for my last bicep movement, I'm doing some dumbbell curls. I like to do an alternating style. However, I do multiple reps at a time on each arm. What I found is when you do both arms at the same time, certainly can be done, a good variation. However, when you start to get to a decent weight load, that's a lot of mass that you're moving up and down in front of you. So you tend to get a lot of body weight movement. Now, you can use that to some degree and have fun getting a good pump someday, but I find being more controlled allows me to get better growth. So I like doing one arm at a time. So the non-working arm, I'm holding the weight and it's kind of staying at my side, and that allows me to kind of better control my body English, my body movement. And then instead of just doing 1, 2, like this, like alternating back and forth, what I don't like about that is when you're holding the dumbbells at your side, if you're using like say, like 10-pound dumbbells, it's easy to just hold it nice and flat, like at your side. Meaning when I curl up and curl down, my palm stays up. And this is important because it gets the best eccentric stretch on the bicep. But when the dumbbell gets bigger, in order for you to bring it down by your side, you have to twist to let the dumbbell hang in a neutral position. What happens though is as you're coming down, when you come down and you start to twist, you lose that eccentric stretch on the bicep, and your brachioradialis, your forearm muscle, kind of helps during that last final couple inches, and that takes away the benefit of the movement. So I like doing it where as I'm curling up, I would curl up, I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do up to 5 where I do it in a row. So that way I can stay palm up through the full eccentric, and then I would rotate to do the other side. So you'll see in the videos that I still stay relatively light with these. So for me, I'll do my working sets usually between 30 to 40 pounds, depending on what day I'm doing and how good I feel that day. Like if I do sets of 5 individuals and then alternate, I usually will do lighter. If I'm doing like just a double and then alternating, double, alternating, I'll probably go up to the 40s. But the idea is I'm staying controlled and getting that good eccentric stretch at the bottom of each movement. So I'll go ahead and do a set with 30 so you can kind of see what that looks like. And today I was doing 5 bouts on each arm of 3 reps on each bout. So that would be 1, 2, 3, and that's 1 bout. Then I do the other side for 3, that's 1 and 1. Then I do a second bout, a third, a fourth, fifth. So it ends up being, can't math right now, 15 reps on each arm, but they're broken into 5 bouts of 3 reps. There you go. I think that made sense. I think I kept the numbers the same the whole way throughout there. So let's look at it and see what's going on. So there's 1, 2, 3, and that's 1 bout. 1, 2, 3. So that's 1 and 1. And now you can see as I'm doing this, I can really emphasize that eccentric stretch. And one of the things that helps is to keep my elbow slightly in front of my body the whole way through the movement, and then I can get a better isolation and stretch at the bottom. So contrast to the first 2 bicep movements where we were emphasizing the top portion of the bicep, this one we want to go ahead and let the bottom portion be pulled open now that we have a lot of pump and fatigue. This is going to create more muscle damage and allow for continued progression and growth of the bicep, but by being pre-exhausted with the pump stuff, the upper bicep connection stuff, it keeps you safer on these challenging eccentric stretches. So I think this is my 5th bout, so we'll call that 5. Up, 2, 3. Whew. So that's what those look like. Now, again on these, the biceps and the triceps, I'll do 2 to 3 practice rounds, find the right weight, get my mind-muscle connection, and then I'll do 3 hard sets. Again, I know it's boring, but looking for somewhere in that 10 to 20 rep range. As long as you're reaching muscular failure within that range, you're going to get growth, assuming you're eating enough calories, assuming your training frequency is decent. You're going to get some good growth. But that is my arm day. It is going to be 3 biceps, 3 triceps. I typically will superset them like I did today. Every once in a while I might do biceps first, then triceps, or vice versa, but I don't usually do that because it takes too long. So I like staying busy in between sets and getting a lot of volume in. So this would be a typical arm day. Right now my workout split is arms on Monday, legs on Tuesday, chest and shoulders on Wednesday, and then back and a little bit of extra shoulders on Thursday, then legs again on Friday, because I'm trying to bring my thighs up. So my arms are over 20. I want to get a lot leaner though and keep over 20. But my arms are over 20. I want to get my thighs. They are at 30, but I'd like them to be leaner as well. So I have like certain measurements that I want to try to get to. And then over time, be leaner and leaner and leaner while maintaining those measurements. But this is a fun split for now. Who knows, I might change in a week. But this is what I'm doing, and I'm really enjoying it, and I thought it'd be fun to share today's workout. So if you want to give it a try, go ahead. If you have any questions, just reach out on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. We also have our free daily podcast that has over 2,000 episodes covering nutrition, training, mindset, listener Q&A. Anything you want to know, I'll make a podcast for you totally for free. But that's on the website. So give today's workout a try, and thank you for watching.